There are two weapon stats in Grey Zone Warfare that are supposed to reduce recoil, or at least that's what you would think, but after testing both, one of them barely seems to do anything at all. So today I'll be clearing up the very common confusion that I have seen between recoil control and muzzle device efficiency so that you're not accidentally putting points into something that doesn't matter when building your guns. So first things first, recoil control does actually matter. This is one of the stats that you see when you open up the weapon in the modding screen, and this has a significant impact on the recoil profile that you experience. I have a couple of clips here just to show this. I have a stock M4 versus a modded M4 with a much higher recoil control stat, and we've kept the muzzle brake efficiency very, very low to demonstrate. Here is the modded M4, and here is the unmodded M4. As you can see, there is significantly less recoil on the modded M4 versus the unmodded M4. This works exactly the same for the AKs as well. So in Grey Zone's recoil model, every time you fire the gun, the barrel repositions vertically by some amount, and the recoil reduction stat reduces the amount that it moves from one shot to another. This even happens on semi-auto and happens with things like bolties too, so when you fire, the entire gun moves higher and you have to correct it by moving it back down again. So now that we've seen that recoil control works quite well, what exactly is muzzle device efficiency? Recoil control is described as the ability to compensate for recoil and keep your shots on target, which makes sense, and the higher the positive number, the better. Whereas muzzle device efficiency says it indicates how effectively a muzzle device improves a weapon's performance, e.g. recoil. The higher the positive number, the better. But this just kind of sounds like recoil again, unless it improves sway or something else. So I've tested this across, again, a load of different weapons, and the overwhelming conclusion that I've come to in general is that muzzle brake efficiency just really doesn't do that much. I started off looking at low recoil weapons, so those with a low recoil control, and muzzle brake efficiency hardly makes any difference to the pattern that you get at all. So I thought to myself, well, maybe it's about recoil control and improving recoil control once there's some of that on the weapon. But even if you apply muzzle device efficiency on weapons with high recoil control, it still hardly makes a difference. There is a small minor improvement between the two, but not enough to really worry about. The in-depth testing that I did between both AKs and M4s show exactly the same profile. Both on high and low recoil controlled weapons, muzzle device efficiency hardly made any difference at all. And I even tried that new British rifle, the L403A1, which had the same results as well. Hardly any difference when taking the muzzle brake on and off. Before we move on to talk about ergonomics, I guess the overall conclusion for the recoil reduction section is that stack the recoil reduction on your guns, because this does matter, and just don't worry too much about the muzzle device efficiency. Normally the things that are going to matter here are things like suppressors and the loudness, that kind of thing, which I haven't tested yet and is probably for a future video, but don't sweat it too hard about muzzle brakes and flash hiders at this point. At least, not from a recoil perspective anyway. There are a couple of other things that I did want to test about recoil involving stances, and you do actually get an improvement to your recoil control as you move through your different stances. So if you are standing upright and you're point firing not using ADS, you have the worst recoil. Then if you're standing and aim down sights, you do actually already get an improvement in recoil for this. Point fire from crouching is next, crouched ADS is after that, and then when you're prone, that gives you the least recoil of all. Intuitively this makes sense, so the lower you are to the ground and the more stable you are, the less recoil you have. So next up, let's move on to ergonomics. In this type of game, ergonomics is usually involved in weapon handling in some way, and normally has some impact on arm stamina. So that was the first thing that I wanted to test, was does having greater ergonomics increase your arm stamina? So to do this, we have to make sure that the weapon's weight is the same, because ergonomics and weight usually go hand in hand for things like ADS speed and how long you can hold the gun up for. So we have to build a weapon with exactly the same weight with vastly different ergo. Here you can see we've done this by adding a bunch of attachments onto the high ergo one and giving it a magazine, and we've taken all the attachments off and removed the magazine from the long one with bad ergonomics. The conclusion? Ergonomics does not give you any arm stamina innately. I was actually quite surprised about this because I really expected it to affect it, but overall you have 36.5 seconds of arm stamina. The first stage, where your hands aren't shaky at all, is 22 seconds, and the second stage is 14.5 seconds, and this is with an M4 of this particular weight. The second stage, where you get yellow on the arms, means that your guy kind of moves his grip around a little bit, so sometimes it interrupts with your aim, but it's not too bad. So the second thing to test then is what does actually affect arm stamina, and presumably that is weight. So I took a high weight gun and a low weight gun. I kind of took them to as big an extreme as I could within the M4 platform, and the low weight gun gave you a total of 46 seconds of arm stamina, so that is 10 seconds more than our base case, 27.5 seconds in the first stage, and 18.5 in the second, where it's slightly shaky. The high weight gun reduced us down to 30.5 seconds of arm stamina, so this is about 6 seconds less than our base case, and 18.5 seconds in the first stage, and 12 seconds in the second stage. So going from the lowest weight M4 that I could kind of feasibly make to the highest weight decreased the arm stamina from 46 seconds overall down to 30 seconds. So it shaved 15 seconds off, i.e. the stamina drain is about 1/3 faster for the high weight gun versus the low weight gun. You could probably make a gun that's even heavier than this if you went for an M1A or some DMR with a huge scope or something. It's probably possible to make one that is even worse, but this is just a good benchmark to give you an idea of how much it affects it. Interestingly, stances affect arm stamina as well. So going back to our base gun, if you're crouched, rather than it being 36 seconds overall, it is now 60 seconds, and from prone, the time goes even longer and is now 120 seconds. So you go from 30 seconds to 60 seconds, all the way up to 2 minutes when you are lying down. You can definitely feel the improvement here in game, although I hadn't actually felt the improvement to the crouching version until I actually checked it. So the final thing we want to look at in terms of ergonomics is ADS speed. So again, I've taken our high ergo weapon and our low ergo weapon and checked out exactly how long it takes for the reticle to appear on the screen when we aim down sights. Historically, when I've done this in the past, it is actually a little bit tricky to get a good indication of exactly what it means for the aim to be sensible and be usable, so I've split it into 2 sections. The first part, using an EOTech holographic, I measured as soon as the reticle appears fully, as in the central dot within the circle, appears actually on the screen. And with the high ergo gun, that appears within 4 frames, which is very, very fast, and the one with low ergonomics at 7 frames, which again actually isn't that slow, to be honest with you. I record at 60 FPS, and so 7 frames equates to 116 milliseconds, which is pretty quick, and compared to Tarkov, it's very, very fast. Then you have the rest of the animation where the weapon sort of settles down, and there's a little bump in grey zone which signifies that you're actually properly in ADS now, and for that to fully complete takes about 17 frames in total for the high ergo one and about 22 frames in total for the low ergo one. So yes, it does make a difference, but it's actually not that bad, and it's not like a huge 3 times, 4 times longer time to ADS with low ergo versus high ergo. So I actually don't think it makes that much difference. Obviously, you want to take extra ergonomics so that you have faster ADS speed if it doesn't cost you anything else, but first and foremost, I probably would just focus on recoil control first, and then focus on ergonomics second, so long as you don't lose too much recoil control to make some optimizations to your build. This is purely because Grey Zone doesn't seem to punish you that much for having low ergonomics. Now, I did try and test out a few other things like strafing and point firing and that kind of thing using low ergo weapons. I couldn't see any difference. Maybe there is something that I'm missing. Obviously, I'm testing all of this from scratch, so I'm trying to figure out if there are any changes or differences or where it actually impacts these guns. But there was nothing obvious to me that I could see from first glance or going through all the testing and trying out various combinations. So if you have noticed something, then do let me know, because I'm sure there's probably layers to this that I haven't covered. One last thing, I did look at breath as well. Ergonomics has no impact on breath, as you probably would expect, but I thought I'd check it just in case. However, it is important to remember that when you're sprinting and you get out of breath, that's actually shared with the hold breath while you're aiming down sights breath too. So if you've just sprinted, then you don't have any breath left to hold your gun up, which I think causes some of these issues where it feels like your guy just has no breath whatsoever. The normal hold breath time is 10 seconds from when you press the button to him being out of breath and not letting you do it again. And if you've literally just sprinted and run out of breath then the recovery time's not enough, and you only get like a single second of breath time or something. It just feels like you just can't hold the gun up anymore. But yes, outside of this, I would say in conclusion, overall, basically focus on recoil control for the most part, tinker with ergonomics a little bit to get a bit extra out of it, and then outside of that, just build the guns that you like. Don't worry too much about the muzzle brake efficiency. You probably do want to go for a suppressor, and as I said, I'm probably going to test the loudness and things like that in the future, and whether flash hiders make a difference and that kind of thing, but that's for another video. So crank that recoil control up as high as you can, and have fun shooting in Grey Zone. As a special announcement, I'm going to be streaming over the next 5 days so that you guys can claim your official Twitch drops. This is the last set of Twitch drops for Greyzone Warfare, and it includes, for a 2-hour watch time, a patch with the channel logo on it. So if you want to be repping the GigaBeef logo in-game, you can come and grab that over on Twitch over the next couple of days after this video went live. So as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.